It was New Year's morning, and the world outside my window looked like a snow globe that had just been shaken. White flakes drifted lazily through the air, settling on the bare branches of the maple tree in my front yard. Inside, my house was quiet, too quiet. The only sound was the soft hum of the heater and the occasional sigh from the old clock above the mantel. I had always loved New Year's Day. When my husband, Mark, was alive, we'd wake up early, make pancakes, and talk about our resolutions while watching the parade on TV. Then, when our son, Ethan, was little, he'd run around in his pajamas, throwing confetti from the kitchen drawers. It used to be chaotic and full of laughter. But this year, everything was different. Mark had passed away 2 years ago, and Ethan had moved across the country for his new job. He called me last night just before midnight, his voice full of excitement about spending New Year's Eve with friends. I was happy for him, truly, but after we hung up, the house seemed to grow even quieter. I watched the fireworks on TV alone, whispered a soft, Happy New Year, and went to bed before midnight. Now it was morning, and I sat by the window with a mug of tea, staring out at the snow. I tried to convince myself that solitude was peace, that quiet mornings like this were a blessing. But the truth was, I felt lonely. Not just alone in the room, but deep down in that quiet part of the heart that aches for laughter, conversation, and the sound of another voice. I sighed and turned on the radio. A cheerful host talked about starting the year right, but I could barely listen. I reached for my book but couldn't focus. Then, just as I was about to take another sip of tea, I heard 3 firm knocks at the door. It startled me. No one visited unannounced, especially not on New Year's Day. I set my mug down and went to the door, hesitating for a moment before opening it. Standing there was a tall young man with snow in his hair and a shy smile on his face. He looked familiar, brown hair, blue eyes, a dimple that appeared when he smiled. Then it hit me. Ryan, I said, surprised. He grinned. Hey, Mrs. Collins, Happy New Year. Ryan was one of Ethan's old friends from high school. He used to come over all the time when they were teenagers, polite, funny, always helping me carry groceries or fix the porch light. I hadn't seen him in years. What are you doing here? I asked, still half in disbelief. He shrugged a little. I was driving by on my way to my aunt's place. Saw the lights on and thought I'd stop and say hello. I didn't want to start the year without checking on you. Something inside me softened instantly. That's very kind of you, I said, stepping aside. Come in before you freeze. He laughed and stomped the snow from his boots before coming in. The house suddenly felt warmer, brighter. It amazed me how just one extra heartbeat could change the energy in a room. I brought these, he said, lifting a grocery bag. Mom made too many cinnamon rolls. I thought you might like some. Ryan, that's sweet of you, I said, taking the bag. The smell of cinnamon and sugar filled the kitchen, and for a moment, I felt like I was back in those noisy mornings of the past. We sat down at the table, and I poured us both hot chocolate. The conversation started slow, but soon, it flowed easily, stories about his job, his family, his plans for the new year. He told me he was working as a mechanic now, saving up to open his own shop one day. I listened, smiling, remembering how he and Ethan used to take apart bicycles in the garage. You always were good with tools, I said. He chuckled. Your son taught me half of what I know. As the morning stretched on, I found myself laughing more than I had in weeks. There was something comforting about having someone in the house, the sound of another voice, the clink of cups, the faint hum of conversation blending with the winter wind outside. At one point, Ryan looked around and said softly, It's still the same here. Feels like old times. I nodded. Sometimes I keep it that way on purpose. Makes it easier to remember. He smiled gently, understanding. Then he reached across the table and said, You know, Mrs. Collins, Ethan always said you made every place feel like home. Guess that's still true. For a moment, I felt my eyes sting. Thank you, Ryan, I whispered. That means more than you know. The day slipped by quickly. We baked cupcakes, something I hadn't done since Ethan left, and even played a few rounds of a board game I found in the closet. When evening came, the sky outside glowed orange and pink before turning to deep blue. I could hear distant fireworks as midnight approached somewhere across town. Ryan helped me clean the kitchen, humming softly. You know, he said, I think New Year's is about showing up for people, even the ones who don't expect it. I smiled. I think you're right. Before he left, he hung a small wooden ornament on my window, a star he'd carved himself. For good luck, he said. Every year deserves a little bit of hope. I touched the ornament, feeling its rough edges. Thank you, Ryan. You made this day special. He smiled, snowflakes catching in his hair again. Happy New Year, Mrs. Collins. After he drove away, I stood by the window, watching the faint glow of fireworks over the town. The house wasn't silent anymore. It was full of warmth, laughter, and the echo of kindness. I whispered softly, Happy New Year, and for the first time in a long time, I meant it. Epilogue. Over the following months, Ryan stopped by now and then, sometimes to fix a leaky faucet, sometimes just to share coffee and conversation. It wasn't about obligation or pity, it was about connection. He told me that his mother always said kindness was contagious, and I found that to be true. The loneliness that used to sit heavy on my chest began to lift, replaced by small moments of joy, laughter over burnt cookies, watching baseball games, sharing stories of the past. When Ethan came home for spring break, he was surprised to find Ryan sitting at my kitchen table again, laughing like old times. You two stayed in touch? Ethan asked, smiling. I looked at Ryan and nodded. He reminded me that life doesn't stop giving you people to care about, even when you least expect it. That night, as I turned off the lights, I glanced at the wooden star hanging by the window. It caught the light from the street lamp, glowing faintly, a symbol of a new beginning. Sometimes, healing doesn't come with big moments or grand gestures. Sometimes, it comes with a simple knock on the door, and the courage to open it.